Hey, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Maggie and I are so excited to start the new year with you. And today's layout is going to get us back into my Ireland scrapbook. But this one's a special beginner, intermediate, and experienced layout. So I hope that's something that you're excited about. I'm excited to bring them to you. We're going to be doing those every week on Wednesdays, typically on Wednesdays, hopefully, unless something happens that I'm not able to manage it. But so this layout is going to follow a sketch, but it's going to show you kind of some different levels of the sketch. Hang on, Maggie wants down. So this is going to bring you several different levels of a sketch so that you know and have an idea of just how many steps it takes to get to that experienced level. And I'm hoping to be able to bring you many, many more of these. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments so that I know whether this is something that's helpful for you. And let's check out my workspace and we'll get started. All right, so this is my workspace for today. Welcome to 2025. Happy New Year. This is the first of what I hope to be many beginner, intermediate, and experienced videos for you. And I'm hoping to bring you one of these every Wednesday so that you have one every week. Won't that be fantastic? I hope that you're as excited as I am. And I hope that I'm able to translate a sketch into a beginner, intermediate, and experienced level for you every week. Not all of them come from our home office pre-designed that way. So we're starting off with what I hope is going to be a fairly easy one. It doesn't require any punches or anything like that. You're just going to use your trimmer. And this is a sketch that came out a couple years back in 2023. So hopefully this is one that will work well for your photos. I also want to mention that I'm hoping to help you be able to translate sketches better in that sometimes it's better to use a darker paper than a lighter paper, or a less busy paper versus a more busy paper, or vice versa. So I'm hoping to give you some advice that will help in that arena. I know I've said many times that you can take a sketch like this and you can use it with any paper and it will work just fine. Any sketch will work just fine with any paper, especially our project recipes. But sometimes it is better if you kind of know or have an idea what works best. And they all turn out beautiful. But sometimes it's better if you know something, have some clues as to how to put something together so that it really pops off the page and sparkles. Some layouts just sparkle and others are nice, but maybe they just don't have everything that your eye might be looking for. And it's hard to put your finger on exactly what that is. So I'm hopefully going to lead us in the direction of being able to identify that what if factor more often. I have permanent and repositionable adhesive. This is CM adhesive, and I don't trust anything else. So if you're just starting out on your scrapbook journey and you are thinking, what in the world, permanent and repositionable, which one do I want? I would definitely get repositionable if you are brand new to scrapbooking. This is your best friend. But there is a place for using both. So definitely, pay attention and kind of notice when I'm using one versus the other, and then decide whether that may be something you want to try using both. I have my custom cutting system out. We're going to use one of the ovals today. This is the second to largest oval, or oval number 3, I think is the way they categorize it from smallest to biggest. So the third largest out of the 4. And we're going to use this because it works best with these wonderful oval plaques that I took pictures of. We are continuing my Ireland series. I'm excited to get moving on with that. And this is continuing photos we took from the Blarney Castle area. Specifically in the castle. We're still in the castle. There's just so much we took photos of. So there is just a lot. But these 2 pages are going to be mainly just some of these placards that kind of talk about different things that are in the castle. We didn't get pictures of everything in the castle, thank goodness, because that would be a whole nother album. But I do have many of these placards that explain different things. So those are definitely going in. And we're going to use this, and we're going to take it one step at a time. Our beginner level is not going to look exactly like this, but it is going to still look nice. So come along with me. Let me show you what I have paper-wise on my table. So let's set these tools aside for just a second and move the photos over here for just a second. I have a lot of paper on my desk, so you may be a little overwhelmed just at that, but let me just say most of these papers we are only going to use a portion of. Okay, so don't get too excited and wonder why I have 2 of everything and wow, that's just a lot of paper. We're not going to use all of this. Okay, we're going to use these darker blue papers, and first of all, these are from the Ireland theme pack that came out earlier in 2024, and so we're going to use the dark blue as our base frame, so that already tells you we're going to be gutting these, right? Then we're going to use the map side of the blue paper. I have 2 more because I'm doing a 2-page layout, so to make it easy, I'm using 2 more papers, and we're going to use those and cut a portion of them off, but these map pages are going to be the bulk of our base page. Then we're also going to use the word paper that has all of the Luck of the Irish and the Irish sayings and things on it. And we're going to be cutting a bunch of this away to use, and then we're going to use the cardstock, which is baby blue cardstock, mostly to matte photos. Okay, so let's start with our base, the base things. Okay, so I'm going to move this cardstock over for just a second. We'll get back to that in a minute. I'm even going to move this cool paper over here for just a minute. And we're just going to deal with the dark blue for right now. Okay, we're going to grab our 12-inch trimmer. This is like my right arm, or certainly my left arm. If you're a scrapbooker, you know what I mean. If you're just getting into it, you will find that you love your 12-inch trimmer. If you have the CM 12-inch trimmer, you are going to be very grateful you have it. If you don't have the 12-inch trimmer, you may want to strongly consider getting one of these this year. So make that one of your wish list items, or whatever you need to do to be able to get this into your toolbox. It's fantastic. Much better than any other trimmer I have ever seen before. Okay, so I'm going to make a frame. What that means is I'm going to cut the center out of this paper and leave the outside. Okay, so I want, and this is a guesstimate, but I believe I want a 1 1/4. Let's go to 1 1/2, just because I have not done this layout before. Maybe I have, but it's been a while and I don't really remember all the measurements. Okay, so I'm going to, well, you know what, before I do that, let's just look and see if we're told in the instructions. They're using a solid piece for their base. I don't want to use a solid piece for my base. I want to hoard this paper. So I'm going to make this a 1 1/2 inch frame so that I can keep the rest of that paper for another day. All right, so what I usually encourage people who are new to scrapbooking to do is to use an alligator clip and set some parameters on their bar. so that they can make this frame quickly and easily. Okay. One thing, if you don't know already, your blade housing has this white mark on it. That's right in the center. That's where your blade is going to touch the paper. You have 1 inch from that mark to the end of the housing this way, and from that mark to the end of the housing this way. So that enables you to be able to measure from the ends of your housing exactly where the blade is going to cut. Mind you, it is a round blade, so it is going to be just a little bit beyond that line. Okay, but if it doesn't matter in this case because this is going to be underneath other papers. But I mentioned that because if we want to make a 1.5 inch frame, then we want our blade to stop here at the 1.5 inch mark. And we have a handy ruler on the, I don't know if you can see that very well, it's kind of glary, but there is a ruler there on the stainless steel arms of your trimmer. So I'm going to set my clip 1 inch higher than where I want my blade to stop. That way, when I move the housing this direction, the blade stops at 1.5 inches. All right. Then I'm also going to grab another clip and I'm going to place it down here so that my housing or my blade stops at 10.5 inches. So I'm going to set this 1 inch beyond at 11.5. That way, when I slide down this way, my blade stops at 10.5. And because I have clips here, it's going to start and stop in the same place for each cut that I make. Okay, that can be very helpful if you are just learning how to do this. If you're experienced, I'm sure you've probably already cut your frame, even though we've been talking. So that's fine. Whatever works best for you. I line it up here at the 1.5 inch grid mark on the right hand side of my cutting line. Push my blade to the top, push down, and pull. Now I have my paper stacked, and that means it's just going to make it faster for me. But if that bothers you because you're worried about your paper slipping around, do one at a time. It's fine. I'm going to do 2 at a time just for the sake of speeding this along. Okay? And my paper just is not quite lined up, so I'm just going to, there we go. Put it back so that it's lined up better. There we go. All right. So we're just going to go around, and I'm going to turn my paper each time I cut so that it's going counterclockwise, but you can go clockwise if you want to. Whatever makes you happy. Okay? Whatever makes sense in your mind is fine. You just want to go all the way around so that then you can lift out this center square and save it for another day. Okay, so set that aside, and then we've got this handy, beautiful frame to use as our base. Now don't put your trimmer away. We are going to take our clips off. We don't need those for this next portion, so I'm just going to clip those up here to my rotating caddy, and then I'm going to grab these 2 pieces, the map pieces. Now, when I look at a paper like this, I'd like to turn it around and kind of determine which side looks like it has the most interest. If I know I'm going to trim some off, I either need to trim off this part over here that has the least amount of printed material so that I can use the blue on the back side but not worry about the pattern on this side and save the pattern for what I'm doing. Or I need to think about, well, maybe I might, if I'm cutting 2 inches off, I might want to cut off this side instead so that I have that pattern to use in that 2-inch strip. So it just depends on what you foresee wanting to do with the paper. But I am going to use this. I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch off of this paper. And let me just make sure, because I'm second guessing myself now. Yeah, this is the blue piece on the sample, and they have only cut a 1/2 inch. So we're going to make this paper 11.5 inches. So we're going to take a 1/2 inch here, and that's going to go into my stash to use another time. And then I'm going to just turn this to this side, because both sides are pretty much the same as far as how much printing they have on them. And we're going to cut this 1/2 inch off to make that 11.5 inches square. All right, so those are going to be good. And actually we could stop there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that adhered. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to do one side of this layout for now. You'll see the finished 2 pages when you look at it, but for now I'm just going to do one side. Okay, so we're going to add adhesive to the back of this, the map paper. Okay. Mind you, not every corner all the way to the corner is going to be needed. Whoops, look at that. I think I was ready for that. I had already set out a refill just in case, because it looked like it was getting close. So here is my refill. Oop. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I do. Okay. So know that the adhesive is not going to be needed all the way in every corner because of the way that this layout is designed. And you only need just a tiny bit of adhesive, but I always seem to go a little overboard. All right, so we're going to take this, and when we sit it down, we're going to tip it to the side. Now, you don't want to tip it so far that you're seeing the cutout area on your frame. This particular layout does not go that far. So you want to tip it so that it's maybe 1 inch from the corner down here, which would make it 1 inch from this corner. If you can make it 1 inch from this corner and this corner, then that's fantastic, because that just does my symmetrical heart good. Okay, so then press it down, and then we're going to trim off those edges. So let me grab my trimmer. You can use your scissors if you'd rather trim it that way, or if you're okay with lining it up this way, you can just come in and line up the blue with your cutting line and trim off the extra. Now, it's going to be sticky, so just be prepared that you don't want it to stick on everything. So try not to push it down on your trimmer, or you're going to have it stuck. But you're just trimming off just this extra little bit. Stick them together there on the edge. And you can hear Haley talking upstairs. Clearly she's not paying attention to the fact that we're recording down here. Isn't that funny? I even have my light turned on upstairs. Those of you who saw my video, and you can see up in the corner there's a link to the video that I did last time to give you a walk around of my space. I have a cute little sign that my husband made for me that I turn on. I try to turn on. Sometimes I'm bad and I forget. But I try to turn it on whenever I'm recording, because I'm just right downstairs and there's no door that separates me from the stairwell and upstairs. So if my kids are upstairs and they're talking to each other or talking on the phone or whatever, oblivious to what I'm doing, which never happens, then, you know, they come in and I can hear everything that's going on, which is good for family continuity, but not so good with recording. Anyway, now what we're going to do is I'm going to throw a little bit of a wrench in this. We're going to turn it sideways because of the fact that most of my photos are horizontal. I'm going to do this layout going this direction rather than the other direction so that it makes more sense for my photos. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside here just for a second and bring my photos in because we need to do some trimming on them. And I've already taken a look at my ovals to try to decide which one would be best. This one is very nearly the same size as the oval in the photo. You can see that it covers almost all of it. So what I'm going to do is just sort of center it, try to center it on the picture, each of them. And then I think what I'm going to do, so in our sketch example, these two photos are smaller than this one up here. So I'm going to, for the time being, go ahead and cut this a little bit large using my green blade around the outside. And it's going to get a little of the foliage around the sign, but that's okay. It will get all of the sign rather than cutting it off in places. So I'd rather do that if I can, and if not, I can always come back and cut it smaller. Okay, what's going on here? This did not cut all the way. Oh, it did cut all the way through. It was just sort of stuck. All right, so there's one picture. This picture does not need an oval. We need to trim this one differently. So I'm going to set that aside. Same with this one. That's going to need to be cut differently. This one needs to be made an oval. And because of where the camera was located, I don't know, I think cutting this one with the green blade would be a mistake. I think we can get away with the red blade for this one. A little bit closer to the photo. So we're just going to trim this using the red blade of our custom cutting system. Same oval template, but just a closer blade. Remember, there's 3 blades. The red one's the closest, about 1/8 of an inch from the plastic template that you're following. And the green one's in between, and the blue one is about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch away from the edge of this. Alright, so this is going to turn out a little bit different given that we're using an oval rather than a rectangle, but I just decided I thought that would be fun and different. So we're trying something different. And I'm going to use the blue blade on this one, even though it's going to leave me with some flat sides. I think it would be kind of okay to do that, because this is just, again, kind of a different way of doing things. So bear with me a second here. We're going to cut it with the blue blade, which is basically just going to cut off the corners. And see how it left us with some flat spots, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. We just have a ton of these cute little signage. Pictures. I love to take pictures of signs when I am visiting a new place. I think it's helpful for many reasons, one of which is it helps jog my memory when I go to do my scrapbook of the details that I read about. And to be honest, I am a slow reader. I don't race through when I'm reading things, and so it actually is helpful because often if I'm trying to read through something, everyone else that I'm traveling with is done and I'm still trying to read. So it's just kind of nice if I can go back and read later. Does that make sense? So if you're like me and you're a slower reader, take pictures of all the signs when you are touristing, and you can go back and read about it later. Especially if you take the pictures on your phone, then you can blow them up and look at all the words much easier. Travel tips with Kim. All right, so there's another one. I think that's going to be on the second page. I don't know. We'll see how this works. This was the young lady's bedroom, which I thought was interesting that they had that they gave that designation. Made me wonder what was special about the young lady's bedroom. Oh, it says there were wooden benches by the window for you to sit on and dream out the window. Isn't that funny? Kind of a different, not kind of, definitely a different era. Although I remember that being a favorite place of mine in my room, by my bed. All right, so that one and that one are going to be with that. On our page 2, we're going to have these two I need to trim using my guillotine trimmer. So if you have the photo trimmer, that's this one. This one works best on photos. And honestly, until this trimmer came out, I really made do with my 12-inch trimmer. So if you're on a tight budget, use your 12-inch trimmer. Buy that. If you're going to buy a trimmer and you can only buy one, buy the 12-inch trimmer. That one's going to get you more bang for your buck. You're going to have decorative blades you can use, which are fantastic. You're going to have so much more ability to cut larger pieces than this. But if you can get this in addition to the 12-inch trimmer, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful tool, especially when it comes to cutting photos. It definitely cuts them with precision, and you'll be very happy with it. I tend to not use it on other things, but it's wonderful for photos. It's not entirely true. I do use it for smaller pieces of cardstock or for mats often, but I do not always use it for anything but that. Okay, now that those are trimmed up, and I think those are the sizes that we're going to go with, let me put these away really quickly. Best to do that so I don't hurt myself, and it protects my blades a bit better. There we go. Unfortunately, they don't come in this box. This box is really handy though. So if you have one of those, it's a really great place to store your blades. All right, so these are going to wait for the next page, but we're going to work on the left side of the layout for now. And let's just lay some of these out. So this photo is bigger, but not as big as this one. Let's see if we can kind of do an every other situation. And maybe what we want to do is do these three kind of down the side like so. And this one over here, because it talks about the castle and how it was a strategic military building. And I can cover that little flat spot with my photo, which is cool. And we can add this one in as well, and then add our journal box down here. What do you think? So as a basic page, I think this works really well, and I would actually center these over and add, what are we going to add for our embellishments? Let's take a look here. So I have a few things that are just sort of have been hanging out. I love this that talks about Ireland goals. Drink Irish beer, kiss the Blarney Stone, explore an Irish castle. That's what we're doing here. We're exploring an Irish castle. This big sticker says exploring Ireland, so we could use that one as well. We could also use some of these round, sort of rather wreath-like pieces. Uh-oh, that's not wanting to come off. It's been stuck here a little bit longer. There, that's better. So we could use that. We could use explore on the map, since we're talking about exploring and some of these other embellishments. Exploring Ireland. Exploring Ireland. We can put this in down here, or we could add our embellishments in more places. So we could take this and adjust this down a bit and add this in behind up here to note that we are exploring. I like that. And I would want to kind of maybe I would just line up that outer edge with this, and then it's not as noticeable. I don't think it's as noticeable. Like that. Put that there, and then we can put this down here and use this area to journal. And because we're going to have another page, maybe this actually would scooch over and we would journal here. Alright, so let's go. I'm just going to add some foam squares to the back of this so that when I set it down, it's not going to stick. And we can add some powder to it to make sure that the sticker part does not stick for sure when we add it to our page. But for right now, I just don't want it to stick to my desk or anything that I don't want it to stick to. So we're just going to add some foam squares in the appropriate places so that I can move this around and we can get sort of a preview of what it might look like. Alright, so this is what I would do for my basic page. Okay, journaling here. You can add a journal box if you want. If you want to, that's a great idea. I just don't have one handy to use. But this would be a great beginner page. Now, in addition, to ramp this up to the next level, let me get rid of my picture cuttings here so that I can not worry about knocking those on the ground. To bring this up to the next level, what we're going to do is grab our Ireland word paper, and we're going to grab our 12-inch trimmer. Okay, again, we're going to cut this frame that you can see in the layout picture. And that frame is going to be an 11.5 by 11.5, but we're going to need to gut that. So first step is we're going to cut it as a square. So we're going to take this Ireland paper, we're going to cut it into an 11.5 inch square. So we're going to cut a 1/2 inch off the side. Okay, so there's half. Then we're going to turn it. You can turn it either direction, but only turn it once so that your words are sideways. And then make sure your paper stays lined up. Is my paper lined up? I think it's good. We're going to cut a 1/2 inch off of that. Set that aside. Now we have an 11.5 by 11.5 piece of paper. But we only want this frame to be very narrow, about a 1/2 inch wide, or maybe 3/4. But I think I'm going to just do a 1/2 inch because we're not going to see all of it. So because of that, I'm going to want to set my clips again And I'm going to line my paper with the top bumper, which is going to mean that I need to cut at the 1/2 inch mark here. That makes it a little bit tough to get my clip where it needs to be at the top. So I'm going to need to just eyeball where to start with that one. But down here we're going to stop at 11 inches. So that means I can set my clip. Now wait a minute, is that right? We have an 11.5 inch piece. We need to stop at 11 inches. So I'm going to set this at 12 inches so that my blade stops, and I'm going to make it so the blade stops just before we get to the 11 inch mark. Because again, since the blade is round, sometimes it carries just a little bit farther than maybe you might want it to. All right. So we're going to start by lining our paper up at the 1/2 inch mark with the paper against the upper shoulder, 1/2 inch mark, which is the beginning of the grid on the right hand side, right there. Okay, then I'm going to come up here, and to know where to start my cut up here, I'm going to align the front of the housing that's closest to me with the 1.5 inch mark before I push the blade down into the paper. So I'm actually going to go just a hair beyond that. And then I'm going to come all the way down to my clip. Okay, then we're going to turn it and line it up exactly the same way with the top shoulder and the 1/2 inch mark. Looking at the measurements on my arm, starting at the 1.5 inch or just beyond it, and cutting. Now if you end up with just a tiny bit that you need to go back and clip with a pair of scissors, that is okay. Sometimes that's what I end up doing. And it's fine with me to do that because this is so much easier than trying to do this manually. Can you imagine trying to cut this without having a trimmer? Wow, that would not happen in my scrapbook world. Okay, so 1.5, just beyond 1.5, starting my cut and going all the way down. Now that's my last cut, but you can see my corners are still somewhat attached. So I'm going to go and just pull gently on those corners and they release because they are just barely attached. Hardly even there. Okay, all of this paper we're saving to use in another layout. So that's going to go over there. Remember how I said we were going to have just a ton of paper to use in a different layout? That's why. Okay, so now, I have to take this clippy off to nest those back together. And I'm done with the clip, so that's going to go up there. And I'm going to take one of these and put it with my stuff for my right hand side of the page. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is remove my photos. These are for the right hand side, so they're going to go over there. I'm just going to slide these off so I kind of know how they were set on here before, because I like the way that was coming together. We're just going to set those there. Here's my base. We're going to take this piece and just for the sake of making sure that I'm doing this the way they've got here, we're going to take this and we're going to turn it just enough that it almost touches the edge. All right, so we can see just a little bit peeking out of the corner, just a little blue inside of each of the corners. Okay, so I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive for this because this is the kind of a thing where I may need to lift it up and move it. in case it buckles or something like that, because I don't want it to buckle, so I may have to adjust it just a little. And the repositionable adhesive is going to let me do that. So I'm going to use repositionable adhesive and come in here with this cute additional frame. I'm going to make sure my words are going the right direction. That's the voice of experience from someone who has done it wrong more than once. You'd think I would have learned from the first time around, right? But probably not. All right, so we're going to just line that up, and when you have it where you want it, just go ahead and press it down. Now the danger is that when you get to this top part, that by the time you press the whole thing down, it sometimes buckles. Fortunately, that did not, so that was good. Very, very good. Okay, so then we're going to move this over here, back onto our page. And I think instead of lining that up with the map page, I'm going to line that up with this frame, and then it will look like it's just being covered by the frame. Kind of cool that way, huh? We'll have this one line up with the edge of the paper, and then these are going to come in over here. I'm going to put those up there. Blarney's going to come in. I want that to cover this edge right here. So this is going to be a little higher. Because I want the Y Blarney to cover this, or as much as I can. All right, and then this will go here, and we can still have plenty of room. Still have plenty of room to journal down here, and we've got our embellishments, which are going to go kind of right in there. Okay, so that's what I would do to bump that up to a more of an intermediate level. To bring it more to a more experienced level, what I would do is mat these photos. Now we've cut them in circles, or ovals, sorry. We've cut them in ovals. So the easiest way to cut a mat for them is to use our custom cutting system again and cut the perfect oval that will go around the edge. So what we will do is set this over here to the side, grab our custom cutting system blades again, grab that oval that we just used, and we're going to need, I think, a different one as well. So if you've made templates, or you have the template that came with your blue templates, blue cutting templates, get that plastic template out so that you can judge which one is going to be the next size up. Because I don't have it, and if you've been watching my channel, then you have heard me lament before about the fact that I've lost or threw away, or it got misplaced in a move, I don't know, but I don't have those templates anymore. So I made my own. I just took some extra cardstock. I have a lot of orange. So I took some extra cardstock and made my own little templates so that I can see which one is next. And I had to label them all. Of course, you can see I have tiny little writing on there that tells me how big of an oval it is, and what blade and which template I used to cut that, so that if I want to cut that size again, I know how. All right. So what I'm going to do is take one of these and determine, we have guests upstairs. I'm going to determine which one of these is the right. Maggie's excited because we have friends here. All right, so I'm going to determine which one of these is the oval that I cut. So that's the oval I cut for this photo. And I think that was similar to a lot of them. But let's just check, because I think this one is this photo. It is. Awesome. Okay. So that one's that one. This one, remember this one was kind of the biggest. And I think it actually might be this oval. It is. Look at that. Okay, so got that one and that one. And then I think these two were the same size, so I'm just going to double check. No, not the same size, but that you can see is going to be the one we want to cut for this picture. Okay, so I'm going to just set these over here in the corner just to get them out of the way. And this one is a 4x6 oval using the outside and the green blade. The 4x6 oval, and these are marked if you don't know already, but they're marked down here. So this is the 4x6 oval, and we need to use the green blade. So enter the baby blue cardstock that I had set out before, right? And we're going to use the green blade and cut a frame for this oval. This is why I kept this and use this as the example for your more experienced layout, because cutting mats for all your photos can be easy if all your lines are straight. If your lines are not straight, it does take a little bit of extra attention. Not a lot of work, but a little bit of extra attention to cut a mat for each of the photos. Okay, so that one's going to go on there, and we're just going to add some adhesive real quick and stick that on there so that they don't get mistaken or mixed up. Okay, so there's that one. This picture was exactly the same size as that, so we need to go to our red blade. So if we used the blue blade instead of the red blade, it would cut, wait a minute, we're cutting around the outside. The blue blade is going to make a bigger circle than the green blade. So we're going to use the same template and the blue blade to make the circle just a little bit bigger for matting this photo. I love these new blades. So when CM first came out with this custom cutting system, it was awesome, but the blades didn't turn, so you had to turn your hand as you went around your template. And that was really tedious. I don't know if you were part of CM at that time, but it was not an easy process to make that happen. And so they went with these new blades where the blades rotate and you don't have to move your hand as much. And I love that so much. It just works so well, so nicely. Very convenient, especially for those of us who have challenges with our phalanges. Is that what those are? So sorry. That's a blast from the past, right? Okay, so this one is the 4x6 oval also, but already uses the blue blade on the outside. So what do? Well, what that means is we need to come back over here to our templates, and we need to figure out which template is going to be the next size up. Now, with ovals, it's a little bit tricky in that you'll notice that the ovals change shape just a little bit. So some of them are a little bit wider this way or a little more elongated as you cut them. So this one, the next size up according to my templates, is the 5x7, so the big oval on the outside with the red blade. So that's going to be the closest that we can get. It's going to be a little bit wider than the rest of them, but it won't be too bad. So we're going to go with that. So the outside of the biggest oval using the red blade. All right, so I'm going to turn this so that I have a little bit better vantage point with it. And we're going with the red blade, so that means we're only going to be about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the template. So that just, knowing that just helps me kind of conserve my paper just a little as I place the template on my cardstock. And for those of you who did watch the video about my workspace, you know that I work on a self-healing mat, so that's why I don't have to worry about pulling out a mat to cut these on, because this mat protects my table already. If you don't have that, then of course you'll want to make sure you're cutting on a self-healing mat. All right, so this one's going to go on here. Now remember how I had said, oh, we can put this against the edge and it will look cool. We can still do that with this. We'll just trim it after we're done. So I'm just going to put this on here and we'll get back to it when we're done cutting all of our mats. All right, so this is our exact size, the 4x6 oval with a red blade. So we're going to cut it with the green blade, and we'll know that that will be the perfect frame for the outer edge of this particular photo. So I'm going to turn this page again, just to, again, give me a little bit better leverage. There, we'll go with that. I am filming this on New Year's Eve, and so Emily has some friends that are joining us to celebrate the new year, ringing the new year in, so to speak. And so they're always a fun group. We love having them over. So they are gathering upstairs, trying to be quiet, but you know, it's hard to be quiet when you're happy people. Oh, and here comes Maggie joining us again. Hi, Mags. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these stuck down to our page. I'm going to start with this one up here. And I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive just because if I need to pop this up and adjust it at all, I want to be able to do that with minimal trauma to my page. Okay, so I'm going to bring this out to the outer edge just a little bit and just kind of align my flat edge of that picture with the word frame that I have. And let's try that. We'll see if we leave it there. I think we will, but who knows. And this one's going to go over top of the base of that photo so that we can't see that we totally chopped it off. And again, I'm going to line this up with the outside edge. I think I may come back and trim that up. But for now, actually, you know what? It'd be easier to do it now. So I'm going to grab my precision point scissors. And let's just do that right now because I can come right in here with these scissors and just trim right along the edge of where that photo is cut. And then I can I didn't have it lined up just right, I can come back in here and fix it. Okay, same thing with this one. come in here and cut that like so. And I'm going to line that up with the edge of my frame. Ta-da! This one, we could even do that way. Well, let's do it just for consistency purposes. So you can see that sometimes when you cut an oval out of a 4x6, you obviously you're not going to be able to make all of your edges, and I could feel the angst from some of you when I trimmed that and I had flat edges. But you can see you don't really notice the couple that are left, and most of them are working with my design, which is what I want. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive on the back of this as well. So that I can put those cute leaves up there. I think that's right, but before I press it in, I'm just gonna set this on top of it. Okay, so like so, we're gonna press that down all the way so it stays. Okay, then this one we didn't get matted, but we can come back in here and do that real quick. Let's just measure this square. So this is going to be 4x4. So I just need a square that is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Let's see if I can use this to cut that. Whoa, that's going to be too small. But I can come in here and not use this little trimmer, but use this trimmer to cut a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch square. Okay, and I'm going to, let's align it with the top so that we can measure and stop our blade at 5 1/4, and then turn this, measure it to 4 1/4, and come down again. The edge of my housing is at 5 1/4, and that gives me a 4 1/4 square without destroying my whole piece of cardstock. So now we're just gonna put this on real quickly. And that's just kind of a view out one of the windows that they were using. Okay, so I'm just going to lift this photo up just a little bit and take this photo and slide it under, so it's kind of over and under some of those other pictures. I like it right there, so we're going to go with that. And then I'm going to bring this, we're going to utilize our no stick powder, which is handy and right in my turntable. I've already got my foam squares on these stickers, but I just want to ensure that they're not going to bend in my album and stick down. So we just use this fun and very handy no stick powder, very fine, you can see, and it keeps the sticker from sticking to our page. Unfortunately, that is an item that I believe is no longer available, but we're hoping if there's enough interest that CM will bring it back and add it to the line, because it is a very handy tool. And really works well for our cause and what we need. All right, so I'm just going to add that here to the bottom, my embellishments, and there is our experienced level layout. Now, the only thing that I would recommend that you might consider changing with something like this, if you don't already have a border on these photos, then you would want to make the mat darker. So a darker mat is going to make the photos pop off the page more readily. But because I already had this dark ring around most of these photos, I wasn't too worried about making the mat dark. But if I didn't have that ring, I would have used a darker blue to match the blue in the base page, or in the base frame that we used, this blue right here. I would have used a blue that was closer to that to frame my photos and mat my photos, because it would help the photos pop off the page better. You can see how this one, if it didn't have the darkness kind of around the edge of that window, this one would blend much more into the matte paper that it's on. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. This has been a fun introduction to the beginner, intermediate, experienced level layouts that I intend to do for you. And you can see that bringing your layout to that next step up, or even the next step up beyond that, is really not, there's really not a lot to that. So I use the word experienced rather than advanced. And the reason that I do that, it's very purposeful. I know I have said it wrong in a couple of videos prior to this one, but I do intentionally call it BIE, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Excuse me, beginner, intermediate, and experienced, because I feel like there are still many more places and advanced levels of scrapbooking beyond what I will be giving you as the advanced level. And so if you are already an experienced scrapbooker, you may be kind of going, that's all you're giving me? Well, there's many more things that you can do. But I'm trying to help those who are just starting out see that they can be an experienced level scrapbooker just with a few more touches to their pages. So, admittedly, I don't often do all those little extras like inking my edges. You guys know that, and that's just not my style. But there are many people out there that do, and I'm not dissuading you from doing that in any way. I think they're amazing, those pages. I just don't have time to spend that much time inking all the edges of my everything. So, and doing all the extra textural things that they do on those fantastic pages that I have seen some people put out. So, anyway, I hope this is something that you like. I hope you'll tune back in on Wednesdays to see more of our beginner, intermediate, and experienced level layouts. And I hope you'll tune back in on Friday for the third layout of the week. It'll be more Ireland, because I'm excited and I want to keep moving on this project. But it will be something that you can do for your albums as well. Thanks so much. I hope you have a fantastic new year. I look forward to bringing you many, many more videos of your favorite scrapbook layouts and helping you in any way I can. If there's any questions that you want me to address in a layout, or samples that you'd like me to try and show you how to do them, please be sure you drop me a note. You can email me. The email's in the description of every layout. You can comment on a video, and then I'll be happy to reply and make a note of any questions or suggestions that you want to see me try. Okay, thanks so much. I love your input, and I love that we have so many people that are watching this channel now, and I am so excited to continue bringing you layouts throughout 2025. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy your new year. Take care, everyone. And until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. All right, ready? Here we go.